Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling, wondering when exactly you stopped feeling like yourself? Maybe you remember a time when you didn't even think about it. You just felt strong, alive, and ready. Now you find yourself quietly wondering, is that part of me gone for good? I've sat with so many men over the years who shared that same quiet question. They wouldn't say it out loud at first. They'd talk about feeling tired, about not sleeping well, about drifting away from their partner, about a certain emptiness they couldn't quite name. Then eventually, with a sigh or a pause, they'd admit the truth. Doc, it just doesn't work like it used to. I don't even want it like I used to. I feel like I'm disappearing. I'm Dr. Edward. I practiced as a men's health specialist and urologist here in Greenville, South Carolina, for over 35 years. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that age alone is rarely the whole problem. What most men think is just getting old is often something preventable, something that can be changed. You see, there's a quiet truth most doctors won't tell you. As you get older, it's not just your hairline or waistline that changes. It's your blood vessels, your circulation, especially in the places that matter most to your sense of being a man. Think about it like this. The pipes in your house don't just stop working because they're old. They clog. They narrow. Mineral deposits build up over years until the water can't flow. Your body is the same. The small blood vessels in your penis and pelvic floor are among the most delicate in your entire system. They're the first to lose flexibility, the first to clog, the first to suffer when circulation slows. And here's the part that might surprise you most. When you stop using them, they decline even faster. It's the same reason your legs get stiff if you sit too long. Your muscles weaken if you don't move them. Your joints ache if you stop walking. Your body is designed to respond to use and to decline with neglect. When men stop caring for their sexual health, they don't just lose desire or performance. They lose circulation, sensation. Even prostate health begins to suffer. But that's only the surface, because the real damage happens deeper. I've seen it in the eyes of so many men when they tell me they don't even try anymore. When they say they avoid their partner's touch because they're afraid of failing. When they confess they feel like less of a man. It's not about sex for them, not really. It's about connection, confidence, the simple feeling of being needed, wanted alive. And when they abandon that part of themselves, everything else starts to close in. They move less. They sleep worse. They feel more irritable. They withdraw emotionally. They start living smaller lives. But here's the truth that gives me hope every time. It doesn't have to be this way. You see, most men think masturbation in old age is shameful or pointless or somehow wrong. Some think it's childish or even harmful. But in over 3 decades of practice, I've seen the exact opposite. Done thoughtfully, mindfully, and regularly, self-pleasure is not just normal. It's essential. It's one of the simplest, most natural ways to maintain blood flow where it's needed most. To keep the tissues healthy, elastic, responsive. To protect prostate health by moving fluids and preventing stagnation. To trigger natural hormonal cascades, dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, prolactin, that help you sleep, reduce anxiety, even ease pain. But beyond all that, it does something even more important. It reminds you that you're still here, that you still deserve pleasure, that you still have a body worth caring for. I've seen men come back to life. I don't mean they turn 25 again, but they smile more. They sit straighter. They reconnect with their partners or with themselves. They reclaim something no pill can give them. I know this might feel awkward to talk about. Maybe you've never even admitted to yourself that you stopped or that you miss it. But I want you to think carefully about this. If you had a car you loved that had been sitting in the garage for 20 years, would you expect it to roar to life the moment you turn the key? Of course not. You need to warm it up. Get the fluids moving. Restore circulation. Your body is no different. That's why, in this video, I want to help you see this not as something dirty or shameful, but as essential maintenance, as one of the most natural forms of self-care you can do as you age. I'm going to show you why it matters, not just for performance, but for your health, your mood, your sleep, even your longevity. And most importantly, I'm going to show you how to do it right. Because yes, there is a right way and a wrong way that can actually make things worse. We'll talk about the role of blood flow, prostate health, hormones, brain chemistry, even emotional connection. So if you're ready to reclaim something you thought was gone, I want you to stay with me. Subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss what comes next. And tell me in the comments which city you're watching from. I really do read them all, and it matters to me to know who I'm talking to. We're just getting started. And trust me, what I'm about to share may change the way you think about aging, about masculinity, and about yourself. Because you deserve to feel like you again. And you can. So stay with me. The best is yet to come. You know, over my years in practice, I can't tell you how many men walked into my office embarrassed to even bring this up. They'd talk about fatigue, stress, aches and pains, but eventually, when they trusted me enough, they'd lean in and say it, "Doc, I just don't feel like a man anymore." One man I'll never forget was Harold. He was 68, retired from the post office, a widower. He'd started seeing someone new, a widow he met at church. Things were going well, dinners, laughter, even holding hands on the porch swing. But when it came time for real closeness, he panicked. He told me with tears in his eyes, "My body didn't respond. Document." I felt humiliated. I pulled away, and she hasn't called since. He thought he was broken, finished. But what Harold didn't know, what most men don't know, is that this decline wasn't inevitable. It was reversible. But he'd done what so many men do. He'd given up on himself. He'd stopped any kind of sexual stimulation for years. Thought it was inappropriate, childish, maybe even immoral at his age. And that's where I started with him. I didn't prescribe a pill. I didn't hand him a brochure for surgery. I taught him to reconnect with himself. We started simple, gentle, mindful self-stimulation, not rushing, not forcing, not treating it like a mechanical task, but as care. Because when a man stops touching himself, his body listens. The blood flow fades. The tissues stiffen. The nerves dull. The prostate fluids stagnate. But when he returns to it, even slowly, even awkwardly at first, something remarkable happens. The blood comes back. The tissues start to remember. Nitric oxide production increases, helping relax and open the blood vessels. Sensation returns, little by little. After a few weeks, Harold came back in. He looked different. His shoulders were straighter. His eyes were clearer. He said, "Doc, I didn't think it would work, but I feel present again." I even called her. That first method, the first step, is so simple it almost sounds silly. Don't abandon yourself. Don't stop touching yourself. But it has to be mindful, gentle, respectful, not rushed, not mechanical, not how you did it at 16 in the bathroom before your mother knocked on the door. It's not about getting it over with. It's about waking yourself up. And that was only the beginning for Harold, because as he reawakened blood flow, he started to notice other things improving. His sleep, his mood, even the arthritis in his hands felt better. Why? Because sexual release isn't just about the genitals. It's about the brain. Orgasm releases a cascade of chemicals: dopamine, oxytocin, prolactin, endorphins. Dopamine boosts motivation and mood. Oxytocin calms the nervous system, eases anxiety. Prolactin helps you sleep. Endorphins reduce pain. Men don't realize this. They think it's just a guilty pleasure they should have outgrown. But your brain and body are designed to respond this way. When you deny yourself this natural, healthy function, you're denying yourself medicine you already have inside you. And Harold wasn't my only patient to see this. Another man, James, was 72, diabetic, overweight, divorced for 15 years. He came in for neuropathy, numbness in his feet, trouble sleeping, no sexual activity at all. He told me bluntly, "Doc, I'm done with that part of life." I asked him, "Is that your choice? Or is that what you think you're supposed to do?" He blinked at me. "I don't know." So I explained what happens to the prostate when a man stops ejaculating. Most men don't know this. The prostate is a gland designed to produce and store fluid. If it never gets flushed out, fluid can build up, leading to congestion, swelling, even infection. Benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, becomes more likely. But when you get the frequent urination at night, weak flow, dribbling, and you want to know one of the simplest, most natural ways to help keep the prostate healthy? Regular ejaculation, whether with a partner or alone. James sat there quietly for a moment. Then he asked, "So you're telling me jerking off is good for my prostate?" I nodded. "Yes, if you do it mindfully, carefully, regularly. Not as a teenager trying to set a speed record." He laughed, but he listened. He went home and started. Slowly. Once a week. Then twice. When he came back for his checkup, he told me he'd started sleeping better. His urination wasn't cured, but it was improved. He also told me, "Doc, I feel less angry, less bottled up." Because here's the thing. When you release, you let go. It's not just fluid. It's tension. It's shame. It's all the unspoken stuff that weighs on you. And for men over 60, over 70, that release is even more vital. But that was only the second lesson I gave him. Because the first was about blood flow. The second about prostate health. The third was about the mind. I told James, your brain needs it just as much. Because sexual stimulation isn't just about the mechanics. It keeps neural pathways alive. Studies show that sexual activity, even solo, lights up multiple regions of the brain, supporting memory, focus, mood. It's exercise for your nervous system. When men stop entirely, those pathways dull. They may not notice it right away, but over time they get foggier, grumpier, more withdrawn, and reconnecting, even privately, can be like flipping the lights back on in rooms you forgot were there. James said he felt sharper, more interested in the world. He even started painting again, not because I gave him a pill, because he gave himself permission to be human, to be a man, not a relic, not a dried-up, sexless shell society tells him he has to be at 72. And you know what? If you're listening to me now, you can do the same. You can start small, gentle, respectful. You can change the way you see this private act, from something to be ashamed of to something you owe yourself. Because your body needs it, your mind needs it, your spirit needs it, and you deserve it. But we're not done yet, because there are still things most men get wrong about this, even when they try to do it for their health. In the next part of this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it right. How to avoid the common mistakes that can actually make things worse. How to reclaim not just function, but confidence, peace, a sense of self. So stay with me, because if you think this part was eye-opening, wait until you hear what's next. And don't forget, if you want more real, honest advice on men's health after 60, subscribe and click the bell. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because this conversation matters. You matter, and it's time to start acting like it. I want you to think about something with me for a moment. How many times in your life did someone actually teach you how to take care of this part of yourself? For most men I've met, the answer is never. They figure it out alone, in secret, as teenagers, in silence, maybe with guilt, maybe with fear of getting caught. And here's the problem. Those rushed, tense, anxious habits they often stuck. Some men carried them into marriage, some into old age. They never changed, even when their bodies did. I can't tell you how many older men I've worked with who told me, I tried, document. It just didn't feel the same. So I gave up. But here's the thing. Of course it didn't feel the same. Your body isn't 20 anymore. And that's not a failure. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's just truth. After 60, the skin is thinner. Nerves can be less responsive. Blood flow is naturally reduced. Even hormones are shifting. So you can't treat yourself the same way you did at 20 or even 40. You have to slow down. You have to pay attention. You have to let yourself feel. That might sound obvious, but for a lot of men, it's completely foreign because they learn to rush, to get over with, to hide it. And that habit doesn't just rob you of pleasure, it conditions your body. When you always use the same grip, the same pressure, the same rush speed, your body learns to respond only to that. It becomes less adaptable, less responsive to a partner's touch, less able to build slow, rich arousal. That's why I always tell my patients, if you're going to do this, do it right. Experiment. Use different pressures, different rhythms, different hands. Don't just grab and finish. Explore. Let your body wake up again. Because when you do that, something remarkable happens. You don't just restore sensitivity in your penis. You rewire your brain. You reconnect the pathways between mind and body that have been asleep. And those changes don't just stay in the bedroom. They spill over into your mood, your sleep, your confidence. I remember one man, David, who told me, I thought I was numb. I thought it was over. But slowing down, I felt things I hadn't felt in years. It was like I got a part of myself back. That's what this is about. Not proving anything. Not living up to some fantasy of who you used to be, but rediscovering what you still are. And it goes even deeper. Because the benefits of masturbation in older age aren't just physical. They're emotional, psychological, even spiritual. When you give yourself permission to feel pleasure at 65, 70, 80, you're telling yourself, I still matter. You're pushing back against the lie that older men are supposed to shut down. You're refusing to become invisible. You're saying, I'm still alive. I still deserve connection. And yes, this includes connection with a partner, if you have one. Because let's be honest, a lot of older couples quietly drift apart. Not because they don't love each other, but because they're embarrassed. Because one or both stopped trying. Because after one bad experience, they pulled away in shame. I've seen it too many times. They become roommates instead of lovers. They stop touching. They stop talking about it. And the distance grows. But when a man reclaims this part of himself, even privately, he often finds he has more to give, more confidence, more warmth, more willingness to reach for his partner's hand. Because he's not so afraid anymore. He's not so ashamed. I had a patient, Frank, 74, married 50 years. He came in one day and told me, Doc, my wife held my hand last night. First time in months. We didn't do anything else. We just sat there. But it felt different. That's what happens when you stop abandoning yourself. You stop abandoning them too. So if you're listening to me now and you're feeling embarrassed or guilty or even angry at me for bringing this up, good. It means it matters. It means there's something here you haven't faced. And I want you to know you don't have to face it alone. Because in the next part of this video, I'm going to show you how to do this the right way. How to avoid the mistakes so many older men make, even when they have the best intentions. How to make this part of your life not just functional, but meaningful again. So stay with me, because you deserve it. You've earned it, and it's not too late. Not by a long shot. And if you want more of these honest, no-nonsense conversations about men's health over 60, hit subscribe and click the bell. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Because this isn't just a video. It's a conversation we all need to have. And it's one I'm honored to have with you. I want you to hear me clearly now. Because this is the part most men get wrong, even if they try to do the right thing. It's not enough just to say, I'm going to start masturbating again and expect miracles. It's how you do it that makes the difference. Let me tell you about Glenn. He was 73, retired carpenter. Big hands. Stoic. Not the type to talk about feelings. He came in, red-faced, almost angry. "Doc," he said, "I did what you told me. I tried, but it felt worse. Pointless. I felt stupid." So I asked him, "How did you do it?" He shifted in his chair. "Quick. In the shower. Like always." That was the problem. He was doing it the same way he'd done for decades. Fast, mechanical, no thought except finishing. And that doesn't work at 73. It doesn't work for what we're trying to do here. Because your body changes. Your sensitivity changes. Your blood flow is slower. Your mind is busier, more distracted, less forgiving. So I told him, "Glenn, you can't rush this. You can't treat it like something dirty to get over with. You need to slow down. Be present. Be kind to yourself." He gave me a look like I had two heads. But he tried. I asked him to set aside time. Not in the shower where he's rushing before the water turns cold. In bed, or in a comfortable chair. Quiet. No TV blasting in the background. Just him and his thoughts. I told him to explore, not just the usual grip, not just the same old rhythm. Use lotion or oil. Take the time to feel. Not just his penis, but his whole body. His chest. His thighs. His neck. Areas he hadn't even considered in decades. Because here's the truth. Your entire body is wired for pleasure. When you ignore everything but one small area, you lose so much richness. And older men are the worst about this. Because they're convinced it's supposed to be one thing, one motion, one result. But when you're 70, you have the chance to make it something completely new. Something deeper. Something that nourishes you instead of just empties you. When Glenn came back a month later, he wouldn't even look at me at first. Then he grinned. "Doc, I don't know what to say. It was different. Better. I felt peaceful after. Even slept better." That's what happens when you stop treating this as a chore and start treating it as self-care. As meditation. As connection. Another patient, Robert, had another issue. He was 69. His problem wasn't technique. It was what he watched. Pornography. He had fallen into a habit of watching increasingly intense videos to try to feel something. And it worked briefly, but then it stopped. He couldn't finish without it. He couldn't get excited without it. And the real-life experience? Numb. Disconnected. He didn't even want to try with his partner anymore. This is so common, I can't even tell you how many times I've heard it. Because the brain is adaptable. When you feed it extreme stimulation over and over, it starts needing that level to respond. Regular touch, eye contact, emotional connection, those don't even register. I told Robert the hard truth. You're training your brain to reject real intimacy. You're flooding it with dopamine and it's becoming numb. He didn't like that, but he listened. I asked him to stop. Cold turkey, at least for a while. To let his brain reset. To focus on fantasy, on memory, on feeling. Not screens. Not strangers. Not someone else's story. His own. It wasn't easy. He slipped up. But slowly, he noticed a change. He could get hard again without videos. He felt more in tune with his body. He was even able to talk to his partner about it, something he hadn't done in years. Because that's the thing about sexual health. It's not just physical. It's emotional. It's psychological. It's about you, who you are, what you want, what you're willing to give yourself permission to feel. I want you to understand something deeply. There's no magic pill for this. No instant fix. But there is a path. A path that starts with honesty, with slowing down, with learning, with letting go of shame, with caring for yourself the way you wish someone else would. That's what I want for you. Because you deserve it. You deserve connection. You deserve to feel alive. And you're not too old. You're not too broken. You're not too late. So stay with me. Because in the next part, I'm going to share even more, including the mistakes to avoid, the small adjustments that make all the difference, and the inspiring stories of men who proved to me and to themselves that it's never too late to feel like you again. If this speaks to you, subscribe, click the bell, and leave me a comment. Tell me where you're listening from, because I read them, and because you're not alone in this. We're in it together, and I'm honored to walk this road with you. I want you to remember this above all else. You're not done. Not just because you're over 60 or 70 or 80. Not because your body is slowed down. Not because someone told you it was shameful or selfish to want this. Your body still remembers. It can still respond. It wants to. You just have to give it a chance. Slow down. Be patient with yourself. Let go of the guilt you were handed when you were too young to know better. Don't rush. Don't punish yourself with impossible expectations. Don't hide. Treat this as care, not chore. As healing, not habit. Because when you do, when you reconnect with yourself, you might find you're sleeping better, thinking clearer, feeling calmer. You might find you're braver about reaching for your partner's hand. You might remember what it feels like to be alive. That's the truth I've seen after 35 years of helping men just like you. So if this message speaks to you, if you want more real methods, more conversations like this, please like, subscribe, and write one in the comments so I know you're here. Tell me where you're watching from, because I read every single one, and because you're not alone. You're never too old to reclaim this part of you. I'm Dr. Edward, and I'll see you in the next video.